Well, hello. Are you ready for some more online dating stories? It's nothing that juicy. I haven't gone out with anyone else since I've only been on that one date this round. But I was supposed to have a date last night. Tonight is Saturday night. Um, Cheers. And, ooh, I've been nursing that for a while and it's pretty warm now. Last night on Friday night, I was supposed to have a date, but I canceled it, and I'm gonna tell you why. So we'll start with that story. Then there's just a few more things I'll mention. Um, yeah, I'm having kind of a boring weekend, but that's okay because I just got back from the grocery store and I got some sushi at the grocery store, but it was actually really good. And I had a week. I went to trivia, I hung out with Cassie, I got Botox, and I actually went back to the doctor to get antibiotics for a sinus infection, and that's finally starting to go away. Although I feel like my voice is still kind of bad, and I actually had to restart this video like 3 times because when I started talking after not talking for a while, my voice was just not ready. But it's okay. We'll move forward. And I know my chair is so squeaky. So I got this cute chair like a year ago when I put together this office. And it's from Amazon, so it's not like high quality, but it's really adorable. It's like, oh, you guys can't see it. It's light pink and it has like studs on it and stuff, but it was like $90, and I don't know, does it need some WD-40? I don't know, but when I was editing back my last video, I was like, God, that chair is squeaking. How annoying, but it is what it is. We're gonna have to live with it for a little longer. I'll try not to move too much. Okay, so at the end of my last video, I mentioned that there was this guy that I had just started talking to, lived about an hour, not quite an hour away, up north towards Madison, but not all the way there. But that I was hesitant because he had just gotten out of an 18-year marriage. And when I asked, when, he said that his wife cheated on him in May. And I mean, May is also the last time I talked to my ex, but like, that was a 1-year relationship. Like, that's a fine amount of time. This is very different. An 18-year marriage where you have 2 teenage kids and then she cheats. I'm just not so sure that that's enough time to get over it. Some of you said some things in the comments about whether or not you thought that that could be an okay situation or not. I'm here to tell you it is not. Yeah, so let's see. Where do I even start? I feel like I'm going to reference the conversation a little bit. So let me just pull it up on my phone here because, yeah, there's a few things. And I want to see if you're picking up on the same things that I was picking up on. So we started talking on the Facebook app, but we pretty quickly moved to Facebook Messenger. This was the guy who, when he messaged me, he said like, oh, do you want to talk about our shared love of John Lovett, which is a podcaster that I like. So I knew, and it's a political podcaster, so I knew our politics agreed, and that was kind of like a good intro line. I was into it. We just talked a little bit. So I started by asking him, like I commented back on that, like, oh, I love John Lovett, LOL. But then I asked him about where he works because he works at this big company that they're kind of famous around here and sort of famous in general, even nationally, for being kind of like a cool place to work, sort of like working at Google. Like it's not Google, but like they have lots of perks and everything. So I asked him like, oh, do you have all the perks? And he kind of laughs and talks about how he just got a sabbatical. He asked me what I was doing that weekend. I told him I was kind of sick. We talked a little bit more about podcasts. And then he had asked me, did I want to go out that night, the night that I was making my last video? But I was kind of debating. I'm like, I don't know. I still feel sick. I was still coughing. But basically, then I asked him about his ex. He tells me that she cheated and then she moved pretty far away. I asked him what he's going to do with his sabbatical. And then we switch over to Facebook Messenger. And I proposed after that I was like, you know what, I think I'm still too sick. Maybe later in the week. He told me he was kind of busy, but maybe the next weekend. And I was like, that's great with me because I had some things going on this week anyway. And we had settled on Friday. But that was a week away, so we had some time to chat. And yeah, it did not go great. We talk a little bit. I mean, first of all, like, I'm making jokes. I'm a funny person. he's like, oh, Facebook Messenger is encrypted. Slightly less government spying could occur. And I say, oh, so is this a good time to tell you I have the nuclear codes? I mean, to be honest, better me than Pete Hegseth. Sorry, but I had to throw it in there. He's laughing. We're joking. We're talking a little bit about that. We're talking about where to go and where to meet. And I'm like, yeah, I have a place. I tell him where. And he says, I haven't been to very many places. I've led a sheltered, anxiously attached life for the past 18 years. You'll have to show me the best places to go. And I'm kind of thinking in my head at this point, like, yeah, that's what I do. That's kind of my specialty at this point. I just keep dating these like men who, I don't know, I show men the ropes kind of like how you can go out and have fun and go to cool places. I did this with Ian. I did this with Pete. I did this with Nick. I did this with Jack. Like all of these men were coming out of these like more serious relationships or places where they weren't going out a lot and they, didn't really have a lot of fun. And then I take them out and I show them a good time. I take them to Milwaukee, Chicago, Madison. We go to concerts. We do fun stuff. Like that's my specialty. So that's what I said. I said, well, stick with me because I'm, I know the best, knowing the best places is my specialty. So then he tells me he can be a social butterfly, but he's been in a jar too long, and starts talking about this get together that he was at the other night where he felt like he was bothering these two girls because he just kept talking to them. But he's like, I can be self-deprecating though. I'm working on that. And then he mentions he's got ADHD and he overthinks everything. He does ask me, so how was your summer? That was one thing that he asked me, and I kind of told him that like I made a new friend on Bumble, but I didn't do much, blah, blah. I mentioned my height. We talk about that for a minute because he's only 5'10", and I'm 5'11", and most guys are lying anyway, so he's probably like 5'8", 5'9". Then he starts talking about how guys can be jerks. And he says, yeah, I know what a shitbox I was in my 20s. I don't ever want to see that guy again. And then he says, I had ADHD and didn't know it. I got kicked out of college 3 times, worked pizza delivery, had no motivation or aspiration, was lonely and depressed. So I charmed my way into friends with benefits with a lot of people and then ended up ghosting them when they wanted more. And I was like, okay. And I said, yeah, I dated a few 20-something yous. And he's like, I'm sure many guys never break out of that. So I'm not like a huge fan of this part because, I mean, I get that what he's saying and the way he's like, I'm sure a lot of guys don't break out of that, has a little bit of an air of superiority to it. Yes, I know a lot of guys are jerks in their 20s. There are a lot of men who are just total dicks at that age and then they grow up and settle down. But does that mean they're not a dick anymore? Or does it just mean that they can't be 40, they're starting to get fat and bald, and they want to settle down so that someone does their laundry for them? Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean that you become a better person in your 30s and 40s. It just means you can't be living that kind of lifestyle anymore because you're getting too old for it. And I tend to think that people don't change that much. Some people change. Usually there's some kind of big situation or something that changes them. Sometimes people change when they have kids, that kind of thing. But I don't love knowing that a guy like was a huge jerk and like was a horrible dick to women and stuff 20 years ago, but like now they're fine. There's plenty of guys that aren't dicks in their 20s or weren't horrible in their 20s, or at least not as bad as this guy's making it sound like he was. So I don't really think that he should have said that to me, but he was being very open about a lot of things, kind of just talking a lot. He's doing a lot more talking in this conversation than I was. But anyway, the next thing I ask him is, I'm like, can I ask what it was about your ex-wife that she finally got you then? And he says, well, she was pretty and I'm shallow and a sucker for pretty girls. Looking way back, I think it was that she accepted me even with all my flaws because she kept saying that she saw I could be more than I was. There's a long story there, but it could be awkward to talk about. Neither of us are those people anymore, though. Significantly for the better for me. As for her, well, ... So in the same paragraph that he is telling me that she sucks now and he's better, okay, he's kind of telling me that like he was a giant loser and she took a chance on him and she helped him become clearly she helped him become a better person. It sounds like he sucked when they met and now he's doing well and he's not giving her any credit for that though. And I'll get more to that in a second because there's more to this. He goes on to say he was a thrice academically dismissed nobody. I went from that to a cum laude graduate of that same college, now with a high paying, and he says what type of job he has. I won't give out too many details. I'm pretty proud of that transformation. Then he says, yes, I said cum loud. I still have the sense of humor of a 10-year-old. I ignore this. I completely ignore that because it's not funny. It is the sense of humor of a 10-year-old. And it's not even funny. Like, listen, I can laugh at a stupid, dirty joke if it's funny. That's not funny. And if he knows it's a sense of humor of a 10-year-old, why is he saying it to someone that he's trying to court, basically? No thank you. But anyway. So I go on asking more questions. I'm asking him, like, where did you grow up? He's giving me all the details on that. I'm like, why do you live where you live now? He's telling me why he moved in that particular area. Saying where he might have wanted to live. I ask, how old are your kids? He says 14 and 18. Now, 18-year marriage, 18-year-old kid, I don't know if you're doing the math. I'm thinking maybe shotgun wedding. I don't know the situation. I'm asking him about his daughter. Oh, she's a senior then. What are her college plans? He goes on and on and on about her college plans. Why she chose this job. Why she chose, major. Why she chose this major. Talking about FAFSA now and all this stuff. I just laugh and I say, oh, LOL, at the college she chose, that's one of our rivals. By the way, I work in higher ed. He keeps talking about himself and his daughter. He just keeps going. He doesn't stop. He doesn't ask me any questions. He continues. So yeah, this makes the most sense for her to be there at that school. We chose it because of this, blah, 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 blah. We talk about that for a while, and I'm just asking him a lot of questions. He is not asking me anything, but he's talking. He talks about how I mentioned I went to grad school in Chicago. He talks about Chicago gives him anxiety. It doesn't sound like he's someone that gets out a lot. Again, I would definitely be taking him on, I don't know, a journey. Let's see. Then we get on talking about concerts. He mentions he saw Mike Birbiglia, and I was like, oh, how was that? I love Mike. He talks about that a little bit. Then he's like, BRB, I need to go do my walk and meditate. I'll be right back. Then he gets back and he's like, phew, I needed that. I skipped meditation this past week and I felt it. So weird though, 8 months ago, you couldn't have told me I'd be meditating and going to therapy and that both would be a huge part of my life now. I would have laughed, nor that I would be doing yoga and going to the gym once a week. So this is kind of like very braggy and weird and annoying, and I'm not impressed at all. I'm just like, okay. I mean, do that stuff if you want to do that stuff, but you know, he's making sure I know that he meditates and goes to the gym, I guess, whatever. I'm asking him more about his job. I'm like, so do you work remote or always in person? He's telling me that. He doesn't ask me anything. I'm like, I throw a couple things out there. I'm like, yeah, I'm hybrid and it's nice. Then he just keeps talking about him. I say my dogs appreciate that I work from home. Then he's talking about his dog. He doesn't ask me anything about my dogs at all. Just keeps talking about his dogs. A little bit more. Oh, then we start talking about like why we live where we live and mortgage rates and stuff. He is not asking me anything. He is just going on and on about his mortgage rates in his house and why he chose it. Talking about how him and his ex don't have any lawyers because they're talking about, like, he's talking about splitting up the house. And then he's like, so far, we've been able to do everything without lawyers because I'm awesome and can do it myself. I warned him that both my exes tried to do that and it did not work out well for either of them. He doesn't ask me anything about those relationships, though. Doesn't ask me about my divorce, even though I've mentioned that I'm divorced. Doesn't ask me anything. He says that he's a decent guy, so he offered his ex a good amount so she can't say shit. He starts talking about child support. I'm kind of like, oh, this is the whole reason I don't want to date someone with kids or someone going through a divorce. I had to deal with all of this when I was with Pete. I, stressed out a lot with the baby mama drama with Ian too. I just don't want to date someone with baby mama drama, but at least his will be over in 4 years. You know what I mean? But still, it's a lot. Then he starts telling me about his ex. So she apparently, now she is 40. That means that they met and they got married and had a kid when she was 22. He's 45, so he would have been 27. So he at least got a little bit of time in his 20s to be a jerk and ghost a bunch of chicks before they settled down. But I'm doing the math and I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't imagine at 22. I mean, when I got married at 25 to a guy I met when I was 20, and when we got divorced, I felt like I had not lived, I had not experienced anything, I had settled down way too fast. This woman married with a kid at 22, I can kind of see why you'd have your little midlife crisis at this point, and kind of, I mean, I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying I could see it, you know what I mean? I have a little bit of a problem maybe where I can be too much of a girl's girl. You know, I always, like, if a guy's cheating on me, I try to get with the other woman and like side with her on everything. And like, I will always give the other woman the benefit of the doubt. If my guy friends are telling me about a situation with a girl that they're dating, I will always like take her side, even though I'm their friend, and tell them that they're being a jerk to her. Like, I can be a little bit too much of a girl's girl, but and it does sound like this woman did a horrible thing, but I'm also like just maybe a little bit too much putting myself in her shoes, because I'm just like, man, I can kind of understand why that life would be like crazy and you'd want to kind of shake things up. But apparently she asked for an open marriage, and he agreed to it. But then right away she started going out with dudes, and she started seeing this 26-year-old, to which that I was like, no, why? Oh my God. Like, I want nothing to do with a 26-year-old. But again, I can kind of understand why maybe you would if all of a sudden you're 40 and you had been settled down for so long. And I mean, you know, it's not incomprehensible is what I'm saying. So then he couldn't take it and went back on it and said, no, I don't want to do the open marriage thing anymore. But she was like, well, I'm already seeing this person. I like him. I'm going to keep pursuing it. So he asked for a separation. He suspects that she had already been seeing the 26-year-old before she asked for the open marriage. And I think that that's probably what happens most of the time when someone asks for an open marriage. It's because they have someone in mind. But I don't know. We don't know. But he's really talking shit about her. He's really, you know, you shouldn't talk bad about your exes to the new person you're dating. It doesn't sound good, especially when you don't know them that well. Like, you should save that. He'll learn. He's new to online dating. He'll learn. But anyway, he says something about, I feel like a grumpy old man some days, and other days I'm playing video games making dick jokes, LOL. So he does have a very immature sense of humor. Then I ask what she does, and he says that he tells me her job. Again, I won't say what it is. Then he says, great credentials. So happy I helped her get there. And I want to pause here because remember how earlier he said that he was a huge freaking loser, 3 times kicked out of college, delivering pizzas with no motivation when he met her? And that the reason he liked her, besides that she was hot and he's shallow, is that she saw something in him, even though he was a huge loser. Sounds like most of the relationships I've been in, where I take some guy in and fix him up and make him better. Sounds like she did the same thing for him. And yet, he said, I'm pretty proud of my transformation, taking complete credit for his growth as a person during the last 18 years. But then when it comes to her, he makes a quip about her job and then says, great credentials, so happy I helped her get there. He's taking credit for her growing as a person and being successful, but saying that his growth was all on his own, even though it sounds like he was more of a loser than she was. And I'm seeing all of that. And I don't know, again, like, it doesn't seem like he sees that, you know what I mean? Anyway, then he mentions his ADHD again. What else? There's another time that he says he's shallow, but I must have skipped past that. He says he was shallow twice, which I was like, it's not a good thing. You shouldn't be saying that about yourself. Mostly at this point, the main thing that's bothering me is he is not asking me anything about me. He is going on and on about himself, and he is not asking me any questions. I have mentioned I'm divorced. He doesn't ask me anything about that or when or who or how long or anything. I mentioned my dogs. He doesn't say, what are your dogs' names? What type of dogs do you have? Nothing. And where I work is not on my Facebook dating profile at all. I mentioned I work in higher ed. He doesn't stop and say, where do you work? Maybe you don't want to ask where, but he doesn't say, like, what do you do? He doesn't ask me anything about my job. I am asking him all about his job. He asks me nothing. It doesn't seem like he wants to get to know me. It seems like he wants like a therapist. Like, he just wants to vent. He just wants to spill. He wants to talk. And I understand that. do that in therapy. But here's where I'm like, I can tell this guy is going through it. He seems very chaotic. He is telling me he's over it and he's better now, but he is clearly not. And that's okay. You shouldn't be. No one would be. I don't know what that little fuzz that just floated down was. Maybe there's a ghost here. But yeah, there's no way that I would expect him to be over it after 18 years this quickly. No way. But he's saying that he is, but he's not. But like his biggest problem is that, you know, he wants to spill, he wants to vent. He is talking. He is not asking me anything. And I don't think that he knows that he's doing it. I'm not saying that he's a bad guy, but like this is, you can tell he's new to online dating. He hasn't learned the ropes yet. And he's, you know, this is what the kind of thing that I used to get myself into all the time 10 years ago, dating these recently divorced guys. And I don't want to do it again. I'm not interested in doing this again. He says what he's looking for in a relationships. I have a lot more clarity, and I know I'm looking for someone who can take care of themselves and be independent, but it's got to be someone who can handle how goofy and weird I can be sometimes, that likes a good "that's what she said" line. And I want someone who's into going out and isn't just a homebody, but also digs cuddling on the couch. Everybody says that. Everybody says that. I want to go out sometimes and I want to stay in sometimes. Everybody's like that. Everybody says that, okay? But then everything else can kind of figure itself out. Well, and she's got to be hot. Here's where it is. I'm pretty shallow, but seriously, I think sexual compatibility is an important part of a relationship. Dude, everybody does. Every guy does. Okay? If you're a man, public service announcement, I don't think there's many dudes watching this, not many straight ones anyway. You don't need to say that sexual compatibility is important to you. You don't need to say that physical attractiveness is important to you. We know that because you're a guy. Okay? We get it. So if you do say it, especially before you've even met someone, it makes us think that you are especially superficial. You are especially just looking for sex because you feel like you need to say it when it's like, we know. You know what I mean? Yeah. You just don't need to say this. You just don't need to say it. Anyway, we do get on a little tangent about how much Joe Rogan sucks and how we both hate Joe Rogan for a while. So that was a good part of the conversation. But basically, I think we're kind of getting to the end now because it all sort of wraps. He does talk a little bit about having daughters and being scared for their future, which I get. I decide to try to just ask him a question. And so I say, well, so what's your favorite drink? So he goes on and on and on and on and on and on about his cocktail. And then he finally does say, you, ? Because I feel like you kind of have to at that point. And I wasn't going to say anything else until he said something to me or asked me a question. At this point, I'm sort of like, I'm going to just wait and see if he asks me questions. I'm going to stop engaging him. I'm going to stop asking him questions to see if maybe he'll start asking me some stuff to keep the conversation going. He does not. He just keeps talking. Yeah, he's like, I'm off to a meeting. Yay, I'm back. Oh, suddenly my night has opened up because my daughter's sick. Blah, blah. Like, he makes a Chuck Norris reference. I thought that whole thing was way over. Mentions a podcast he's listening to. How is your Tuesday? He does ask me that at one point. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's a question. It's not a good one, but at least he asked me something. So I'm like, oh, it's bad. I have a meeting, but then I'm going to go to the immediate care because I need some antibiotics for this sinus infection. And he says, well, that sucks, hairy gonads. That's his answer to me saying I have a sinus infection. That sucks, hairy gonads. He's 45. He says, looks like we're going to have a busy trivia night tonight. 8 people signed up. I don't know what that means. He has never mentioned to me before that he has trivia, so I'm a little confused at this. So I'm like, oh, you have trivia? I have it tonight too. Yours has a sign up. And then he's like, yeah, the place fills up. We have a table, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't think you've told me about this because he's talking about it like he has. And he's like, oh, no, I'm just a boat anchor for my team. I have fun. There's some super smart people there. We usually get top 3. Like Liam Neeson, I have a very specific set of skills that we have yet to identify. At this point, again, it's like you could have asked me, like, who's on your trivia team? What do you play? What's your specialty? There's so many follow-ups that he could have asked me at that point. He asks me nothing, so I do not say anything back to him. Because, again, I'm just, like, waiting here to see if he will ask me anything. That night, as I'm leaving trivia, I hear my messenger go off my phone, and I'm like, I just know that it's going to be this guy telling me how his team did, and he is not going to ask me how my team did. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. He bling, and it just says, yeah, we got second place. So I waited a while, and then he didn't ask me anything. So I said, like 45 minutes later, I was like, yay, that's cool. Now my team actually got first place this week, but I wasn't going to tell. I was waiting to see if he would ask me. He said nothing in response to that. The next day, he said, are we still on for tomorrow night? I guess it would have been 2 days later because that would have been Thursday. And I didn't answer him the whole day. I finished the work day, and then I was like, okay. I had talked to both Cassie and Pete about this, and I had said, like, I kind of want to tell this guy what he's doing wrong, but in a really nice way, because I feel like he needs some advice. But like, I am not going out with him. And both of them were like, well, it can't hurt to just kind of tell him what he's doing wrong, I guess. But I don't want to be mean. He's clearly going through a lot. This is what I settled on. I sent him this message. I said, I'm going to decline. To be honest, our conversation has felt a bit one-sided. I've mentioned things like my job, dogs, divorce, but you haven't asked me anything about them or much about me in general. Even with trivia, for example, you told me how your team did, but didn't ask about mine. And we don't have the same sense of humor, so I don't think we are a match, but I wish you the best out there. That's what I said. And then I waited until I saw that he saw it, and the little bubble on Messenger turned to his picture of his face. So I was like, okay, he read it. And there was enough time if he was going to respond, he would have responded, but he didn't respond right away, and I was really anxious, so then I blocked him. So if he was planning on responding later, he couldn't. I blocked him like a couple minutes after I saw that he read it, and so that's it. I blocked him everywhere. I got on Hinge today, and he was one of my first people that it gave me, and I was like, no. Block, we are done here. We are done with this person, but he's obviously on all of them. So I don't know, maybe you think I'm mean for saying that, but I really was trying to more like help him out. I'm like, even if he walks away from this thinking I'm a bitch or whatever, he needs to know. And maybe I didn't need to throw in the sense of humor thing, but believe me, I wanted to go on even more and be like, no girl thinks, come loud and hairy gonads is funny. And if she pretends to, she's being a pick-me. Like, I mean, really, would any of you laugh at that? Like, I'm funny, like smart funny, clever, intelligent funny, witty, if you will. Not to toot my own horn too much, but I make people laugh. Not because I'm saying stuff like that. I was trying to think, like, could I think of anyone that I have dated who I could see them saying stuff like that? And the only one that comes to mind is Jack. Jack had a very immature sense of humor too. He liked like fart jokes and stuff, and I hated that about him, but no one else. Now, I have to say, while this was all going on, I mentioned that I talked to both Cassie and Pete about it. I knew Cassie's response. I knew as soon as I got to come loud, she would be like, no, we're done. And when I got to that part of the story, her eyes just widened. And I knew she was going to tell me, you do not go out with this guy. What are you talking about? When I messaged her a screenshot of the message that I sent him, and I was like, well, I'm done. I'm not going out with this guy. Here's what I sent him. She wrote back and goes, well, he probably said, that sucks hairy gonads. But by far the funniest thing is the conversation I had with Pete, because the other day, I don't remember exactly what day it was, but I dropped a roll of Scotch tape in my toilet and it went down the flusher. I had a roll of tape on my counter and the toilet was mid-flush and it knocked in, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to fish that out. And then it went whoop, and I heard it go dunk 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 in the toilet, and I was like, oh no. So I text Pete because he's like my unofficial handyman, and I'm just like, do I have a problem here? So while we were talking about the toilet, he mentioned that he was bored on the train to Chicago for work, and he was asking me about pods to listen to. So since he was bored, I was like, I'm supposed to go on a date Friday with a guy I've been talking to, but his sense of humor is very immature. I told him I had a sinus infection, and his response was, well, that sucks, hairy gonads. Can you see me going on a date with a guy who says hairy gonads? Pete said, no. Also, the hairy gonads should really be reserved for something worse than a runny nose. And I was like, we'll see. Now that's more funny. Then I told him a little bit about the guy. Anyway, so we chatted for a second more. He's like, I'm getting into Union Station now, you know, in Chicago. He's like, but also thank you. I now have hairy gonads rattling around in my head, and I'm afraid I'm going to accidentally say that at work. And I was like, well, also he spelled it Harry, Harry. And Pete goes, like the prince? And I'm like, yeah, so think of Prince Harry's gonads if you're going to say it. And he's like, Harry's hairy gonads. And I sent him a gif of Prince Harry like thrusting his hips or whatever. And then he says it's not right, making me audibly laugh on a full train. I'm dying. And then later on I sent him the same thing I sent Cassie. I was like, well, I ended it. Here's the message I sent him. Oh, I told him, I'm like, Cassie said, he probably said that sucks hairy gonads. And he's like, well, if a sinus infection sucks hairy gonads, getting dumped and blocked has to be something worse, no? And I'm like, I mean, I suppose it could be like sucking Prince Charles' gonads. And he's like, Charles are probably worse. And now it's this whole thing where now it's hilarious. It wasn't funny when the guy said it at all. But now it's like an inside joke with my friends that it's funny that he said it. It's so stupid. It's just the dumbest thing in the world. Oh my God. Oh man. All right. What else do I have to share with you today? You know what these guys need? I keep thinking when I'm talking to some of these dudes, they need, so there is this skit, and I just saw what they were called the other day. It's Famous Bachelors. If you look up Famous Bachelors on Instagram, they do TikToks and Reels where it's just these young guys, but they project each other's conversations with women up on a TV, and then they all like tell the other guy what they're doing wrong. So they'll be like, dude, you sent a triple text. You never send a triple text. Why did you do that? Or like, yo, she said this. That means she's not into you. Or you should have responded this way. And I feel like so many of these guys like need that guidance from their bros or whatever. But instead, nope, they're just going to keep being out there saying crazy stuff. So here's some new ones that I have. I had a guy who, so on Facebook dating, you can comment on someone's picture before you've matched. So there is a way to send someone a message before they've mutually matched you. And this guy comments on my main photo and says, if you're not willing to do a spontaneous 160-mile drive for sex, you don't make the cut. And I just had to write back. So I wrote, are you effing serious with this? And he said, do it. Weekend in Chicago. And I said, yeah, I'm good on not getting the clap from a man slut. And he said, I haven't got laid in a year, LMAO. And I said, yeah, well, with pickup lines like that, I can't imagine why. You guys, I know I was slut-shaming him a little bit, but if my act of microfeminism is slut-shaming promiscuous men on dating apps, I think I'm good with that. And of course, there's more. There's always more. This guy says, just old and dead. Nothing to see here except dad jokes and trying to put it in your butt. This guy says, looking for friends with benefits only. 98% looking to be tied down anyway. I don't understand. His grammar is terrible. It makes no sense. I'm an Army veteran, 420 friendly. Outgoing, family-oriented business owner going through a divorce because she's a cheater. Oh, and then on the friendship tab, it tried to match me with this girl, and her profile was kind of badass, so I screenshot it. She starts off saying, even Hitler had a girlfriend. You don't. Let me help you with that. That was kind of funny, actually. Same girl said, my idea of a perfect day is walking through the lumber section at Menards telling men to smile. Maybe I should friend match her. She seems funny. This I thought was kind of mean. I work a lot, so my free time is limited. If you have a selfie sitting in your car, why don't you have better things to do? Like, sometimes you're just feeling yourself and you're in your car, so you take a picture. Why is that any different than any selfie that you would take of yourself anywhere? It just happens to be in the car. I mean, if you look good in the car, you look good when you look good, you know? None of those were quite as funny as some of the other ones that I've read, but oh, it sure is a desert out there. So I got off of Facebook dating because it seemed like I had hit the end of the road. And I got on Hinge today. And when I first got on there, so Hinge does have a section, like there's a lot more searchable things, but you have to pay. So you can't search by anything except distance and age. But it seems like anyone can like you, regardless of your preferences. And to be able to search by things like, do they drink? Do they have kids? Their height, you have to, politics, you have to pay. And when I first got on there, I mean, it was just showing me bananas matches, just absolutely 5'5" conservatives from Michigan. I mean, stuff that I was just like, well, I'm never gonna like have any success with all of this. I know the algorithm is supposed to learn you, and maybe it has, because I did a little swiping this morning, and then I came back from going to the grocery store, and I got back on there, and I was like, oh, okay. Now there's a bunch of liberal dudes, so maybe it's understanding. But also, they're all from Chicago. I'm not seeing anyone local. I mean, in general, there's just nobody in this town where I live. I match with everybody. I've said it before. I match with Chicago, Madison, Milwaukee guys because that is where the folk that think like me live. And I live in this small blue-collar town, and there's just not a lot of people here that are like me, and maybe I should just move, but the cost of living here is so good, and I have this rate on my condo and my job and everything. Like, I'm kind of stuck, at least for now, but it seems like Hinge is giving me, like, so far, just like Chicago dudes. But the thing is, I want to get Madison and Milwaukee guys. I don't really want to get Chicago guys, but to have my location radius to where I can hit Milwaukee and Madison, it kind of gives me Chicago too. So I don't know, maybe I should just make it smaller for now and then open it up more if I like go through all the people that are more local. But it's not really paying attention anyway, because on Hinge you can also just search through new matches, but you can also see who has liked you. And some of the people that are liking me, I have had two, and I have only been on the app for a few hours. I've only been on the app for 6 hours, and I have had two 19-year-olds like me. You are 19. It feels disgusting. They are younger than the students that I work with at my job. And I've had a smattering of like 21, 22-year-olds as well. And I am not that other guy's ex-wife. I am not looking for that at all. Hinge, why are you showing me to 19-year-olds? What is going on? There's also plenty of people on there that, based on what they've said on their profile, I can tell that they did not read mine because we do not agree on anything. But men just swipe on looks. Me, now that with the Hinge, with having everything listed, the first thing every time I'm on the app, first thing I swipe, or that I look at when I'm on somebody, first thing I look at is politics. Second thing I look at is height. Third thing I look at is where are they located. Then I will scroll over to see what they have put down for drinking alcohol and if they have kids. And then I will look at their picture. Their picture is like the sixth thing. Now, I'm not saying I'm not superficial at all, because the second thing I look at is height, but that is because I'm 5'11", and I just know from experience short guys don't like dating me either. But, you know, you could be very bizarre looking. If we align on the other things, I'm fine with that. But I know men are just like, if they're pretty, it's just gonna swipe yes. And some guys just swipe yes on everybody. But 19-year-olds Hinge, come on. So I'm tempted to pay for like 1 week. You can pay for 1 week of Hinge. It's like $16 just to be able to change my filters, just to see the people around me who are, you know, in my preferences, and then be done with it. But I don't know, we'll see. Like I said, it was getting a little better. I've always heard that the Hinge algorithm is like bad though. Like there are people that go on TikTok and talk about how you have to trick your algorithm because it will give you bad matches on purpose because it really doesn't want you to find someone, because then you're not using the app anymore. And I don't know what's left after this. Bumble, I guess. I feel like it's all the same people though. I've already seen not just the one guy that I just talked to, but I've seen other people on Hinge just today that I've already talked to on Facebook dating. I think that's kind of it as far as the online dating. The guy that I talked about in my last video, who is very nice, who I went out with twice 3 years ago, there's this little part of me that's still like, was I right to stop talking? Because he was just coming on really, 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 really strong and texting me constantly, but with nothing to say. And I was like, I think I would be friends with this dude, but now we didn't have any chemistry when we met in person. I would want to take it slow. And now he's like coming on so strong. I feel like I can't even be his friend because I'm going to lead him on. He needs the famous bachelors. He needs those guys to tell him like, dude, chill. Stop texting her so much. Stop triple, quadruple texting her. Because I still am like, well, you know, compared to all these other dudes that I'm seeing on the app, like we aligned on all the major points. Taller than me, lives about an hour away, liberal, no kids, you know, we had a vegetarian, we had a lot of things in common on paper, but I don't know. It was probably the right decision to let that one go, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. It's hard out there. It really just needs, some of these guys that I'm seeing that are in Chicago seem great, but they're in Chicago. And I'm like, I just need one of these guys, but to like live closer to me. The interesting thing about Hinge actually having a category for politics is that people are talking about it more on there. I've seen multiple profiles of men where they say, I can't believe how many people on here are listing themselves as apolitical. You should care. You should, you know, educate yourself, have an opinion. I actually screenshot this one guy's profile because I liked what he said, where he's like, the way to win me over is to believe in things. The amount of apolitical profiles here is sad. Be curious, be opinionated. Then he said, I'm just a guy looking for a childless cat lady. You know, but he was in Chicago. And so I just know from experience that these Chicago guys do not want to date someone from 2 hours away. They have a million people to choose from in the city. So it just really never works out with these Chicago dudes. But that's where I guess I need to be, you know, or Madison. But I am not and cannot change that right now. So anyway, so boring weekend again. Like I said, I did go to the store today because I am now in charge of bringing the veggie tray for Christmas Eve. And I am going to make some dips. So I'm going to try out a few different dips. I think I'm going to do like a classic dill, but then also like maybe a spicy ranch or a jalapeno ranch or some fiesta, some kind of ranch, but not just a basic one. So I looked up a bunch of recipes and I'm going to try to make like tiny batches to see which one I like the best. Because I do want to make them from scratch. You know, we all, at my Christmas Eve for my family, we all just like bring a dish or whatever. So I want to make something. I want it to be extra good, but tomorrow I'll probably just be like making dips. But other than that, not much going on. So at the end of this video, this is going to be kind of boring maybe, but let me tell you about my Botox experience. This is my second time getting Botox. If you're not interested in this, you don't have to watch this part, but if you know anything about Botox or if you're like a medical practitioner, I would appreciate your advice on this. So the last time I got Botox, I only got it in the 11s. 4 units, 4 units, 4 units. So 12 total in the triangle. And that was 1.5 years ago. And I just wanted to try it out. And it did freeze me here. But I didn't feel like with one treatment, it really lessened the lines that were already there, but I couldn't make new ones. I couldn't make them deeper. I couldn't scrunch my face. But the main benefit that I got out of it was that I didn't get a migraine that whole time. And I think the reason I get a lot of migraines is I am someone who is a scruncher. Ian used to tell me I look mad when I sleep because I think I have resting concentration face. I don't think I have resting bitch face, but I'm always in thought, you know, I'm a super overly analytical person. I have anxiety, and I think that I am just always, my brow is always furrowed. Additionally, I always find myself squinting in the car, even when I'm trying not to, even when I have sunglasses on or it's not even sunny. And I have perfect vision. I'm on a computer a lot and I'm squinting there, but 20/20 vision, so it's not a vision problem. But I do think I'm very squinty and I sleep scrunched. And so, you know, when I had the Botox, I couldn't do that. I woke up with less migraines. But I've been scared to get it again because I do have Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune disorder, and I have thyroid eye disease. And on my phone, when I look at my pictures of my Botox from before, because obviously I took before and after shots of myself, and then I scroll down just a couple of months, all of a sudden I'm taking pictures of my eyes again because my thyroid eye disease was starting to come back, and I'd wake up with one eye bigger than the other. And so I've been scared to get it again, even though, because there is the thought out there that some people say you shouldn't get Botox if you have an autoimmune because you're putting a toxin in your body and then that can ramp up your immune system, which can be worse for an autoimmune disorder. However, both the dermatologist and my endocrinologist, who I trust, told me they were fine with me getting Botox, no problem. And my endocrinologist especially was like, if it's helping your migraines, get it. My primary care doctor sent me to a migraine specialist to talk about getting medically paid Botox. But what I found out is you have to have 15 migraine days a month, which I do not have them that bad. Not that often. Sometimes I have like 10 migraine days a month, but not half the time. You have to try a bunch of other stuff first. The insurance makes you do all this other stuff first. And if you get it and you qualify, you have to get 100 units of Botox all over your neck and shoulders and everything. And I was like, well, I don't even want that anyway. Even if it is paid for by insurance, I don't want that much. So I dropped that whole idea. There's no way to know if it was just a coincidence. My numbers with my thyroid disorder were not very stable back then. So I don't know, but I've been scared to get it again. But I've really been wanting to get it again because something that I tried frownies, which is like a patch you put on your head at night to keep you from like furrowing your brow. It doesn't really seem to, like, I guess it keeps me from furrowing my brow like when I'm sleeping, but it doesn't seem to be making any wrinkles that I have fall out, and they come right back as soon as you take it off in the morning. Something I found that's just as effective is just literally taping my face. If I feel like I'm getting a migraine, I will put Scotch tape in like a triangle and then like a cross like on this part of my face, like a double layer. Sometimes I'll do like a cross. Like I will literally just tape up my head, and this is why I had a roll of Scotch tape sitting on my counter that I knocked into the toilet. But it does kind of work. If I feel like I'm getting a migraine, I will go to sleep with my face taped, and I feel like it keeps me from at least making it worse and scrunching. But I was getting sick of doing that, and my lines been getting way worse, so I went to get more. Now the place where I go, it's $15 a unit with the doctor, $14 with the nurse practitioner, or $12 with the nurse. I was like, give me the nurse. I don't care. $12 a unit. I'm poor. I can't really afford this, but I want to try it. And I told her my budget, and I was like, I want to do forehead this time too, but this is how much I have to spend. So we did, again, the 12 units on the 11s. We did 2 more in this across line, which she said, because I was like, I just want to get this one low enough that it gets this cross line. She said that's a different muscle. It needs a different shot. So we had to do 2 more down here. And then I just got 10 units in my forehead in kind of the M-shaped pattern. And she was like, we should be doing more, but you might still have some movement, but we'll see how this does for you. You can always come back and get more. But I'm like, I don't want to spend that much more. It was already too much money. So I got 24 units, and I didn't actually, so there was a $50 off coupon for Dysport, which is a different brand than Botox, and it's a little different, but she said she liked it better, that's what she gets, and it kicks in faster, but it might not last quite as long. So I actually did the Dysport, and I know that that's actually, like, you get more units, but it's the equivalent of the Botox price that you get. So I did get Dysport, and it did kick in really fast. Like the next day, I could already tell, like, I was, not able to move my face as much. But something that's kind of freaking me out is that what I can move, I feel like the M she put was like kind of up a little high, and then the 11s were like here, and I still have wrinkles through here, and I could still squeeze through here, which I don't like. And then I'm getting like these divots. You can't see now on this camera, and I don't want you to see. But when I can move my forehead now, I have like divots here, and it makes me look like I have a bulge in the center of my forehead here, and then like these divots here, and you can kind of even see it at rest that I feel like I'm a little lumpy now. And so I'm kind of like, I hope this goes away. It's only been since Tuesday, and today's Saturday, and it takes 10 to 14 days to fully kick in, but I feel like, I don't know, when this settles, I might not be super happy with it, and I'm mostly mad that I paid so much for it if I'm not going to be happy with it. I'm happy with what it's doing right here, and I do feel like it's lessened my 11 lines already, and I can't move this little across line, although that's still there. So I'm not, like, overall unhappy with all of it, but I'm not liking what it's doing to my forehead, and I kind of want to go back and just, like, talk about it. But I don't know that I want to go back to the nurse. I feel like I want to go back to the doctor. So what I'm thinking about doing is making a medical appointment with the doctor to ask about just like, can you look at these weird moles? And my insurance will cover that part. And then while I'm there, can I ask you for a quick question about the Botox? Because maybe I just need a different pattern. Like there's different injection patterns that work different for different people. Maybe I just need a different pattern. If you guys know anything about this, let me know. But yeah, I know what they're going to tell me. They're just going to tell me I need more. But I do feel like I have these 2 lines here now, and then this like bulge. And I don't have that before. I didn't have that. So maybe, and next time I think I'll just go back to the Botox brand too. just to see the difference. But this was a good time for me to get it because my thyroid numbers are stable now and I'm not changing my dose of medication. So I get my thyroid tested every 3 months. I got it right at Thanksgiving. My numbers are just slowly improving, nice and steady. We're not changing my dose of medication. So if all of a sudden my numbers are bad now at the end of February when I get my next test, I will know it's the Botox. Like, so that was why it was a good time to try it again. I want to love it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to love it. And I am getting kind of a lot of fine lines in my forehead. I don't like it. This is something I'm willing to splurge on a little bit, as much as I can, which is not much, but we'll see. I think that's all that's really going on. I mean, Hinge is popping. I got like 40 likes in the first hour I was on there, showing me to a bunch of people. But yeah, definitely some repeats. And so the age range is insane. I had a 75-year-old like me on Hinge today. Facebook dating wasn't doing me like that. It was giving me some, 50 plus, but it wasn't giving me 75. It's just showing me to literally anybody, I guess, on there. 19, 75. Can you even be on the app if you're younger than 19? Oh my God. Okay, I think that's it. I feel like this one was not very exciting, but yeah, that's it. Look how much I'm just nursing this warm ass Corona Light. Drinking Corona Light reminds me of like when I was 27, right after my divorce, I'd go to Rockford and hang out with these kids I knew from high school, and I drank a lot of Corona Light for some reason. They all drink like Bud Light. I cannot. The only lawnmower beer I can do is like a Corona Modelo. And I feel like Corona Light tastes pretty close to regular Corona, so you might as well save the calories, but it's not that great. Okay, y'all. I might go. It's only 6:30, so I might actually go play around with some dips tonight even. Maybe try to make some dips. And I can't believe it's going to be the holidays very soon. So, all right. Thanks for watching as usual. Bye.